set up the device, the fingerprints, it's probably one of the fastest fingerprint unlock I've seen on any phone I use essentially. The OnePlus 60 was pretty fast, but I had to register my finger twice on that phone in order to get it to unlock as fast. On this one, it is super fast. Now you could still use the face unlock if you wanted to. Now I didn't set that up. Basically to do that, you just go into your security unlock screen, and I could go into the face unlock and just put in my pin there, add face data, and let's just do that right away. So let's just set that up, and it's done pretty much. Also unlock when the screen is on, and I lock the phone right now, and just there you go. It's still super fast. So the face unlock is extremely fast. It's 1 second, it's going up, and before you know it, it's already unlocked the phone. So it's extremely fast, which I really love about the phone. However, due to the 300 times it tested it for basically, which is about 5 years of 150 or 180 ups and downs in a day, using your face unlock with the motorized front camera would definitely use it more often, which definitely is not recommended. So definitely the fingerprints is the way to go, or you could use a combination of both if you wanted to. Now let's go deeper into the phone, into the features of the phone, and what makes the OnePlus 7 Pro the OnePlus 7 Pro and has given it all this attention and noise we've had so far. Let me call it noise, but essentially the hype we've had so far about the OnePlus 7 Pro. So the colors, we have them in 3 variants. I'm showing right now on the screen. You have the almond, the nebula blue, and the mirror gray. I've been opportunity to actually have all 3 of them, and I would say for a fact the almond is my favorite color. One, thanks to just this nice, very, very beautiful golden kind of color with like the accents on the sides. At the launch event, when I saw this color, I fell in love with it, and this is my favorite color, followed by the nebula blue and the mirror gray. And it's quite funny that as the colors progress, the more slippery the phone is. So this actually has the best grip of all the OnePlus 7 Pros. The nebula blue is a little bit more slippery, while the mirror gray is extremely slippery. You can't hold the phone out without the case. It will literally just slide out of your hands. This one has a very kind of like matte finish to it. As a result, it actually sticks, and I really like that about this almond, which is also making it not only my favorite color, but really my favorite version of the OnePlus 7 Pro. Now, everyone knows what's actually made OnePlus what OnePlus is today is the Oxygen OS. Now, there's a whole lot into Oxygen OS, but it is the cleanest and probably the fastest version of Android that you have out there today. Next to, or the closest you have is stock Android, which you get with the Google Pixels. After the Pixels, this is the Android to go for if you're looking for a true Android experience without the clutters, without the bugs, without the extra stuff you don't need, and it is fully extremely customizable. That is, I could change my icons, I could change my fonts, I could basically change everything without adding extra themes, extra packs, extra stuff that literally just clutter my phone. I can customize this phone into anything I want it to be, which is why OnePlus has essentially been my own personal driver for the last 4 years, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this video. So moving forward, the charging, OnePlus is technically one of the fastest charging phones out there today. It is no longer the fastest, but one of the fastest, and thanks to the Warp Charge 30, you can essentially get 50% in as little as 20 minutes, which is really impressive with this phone, and that makes up for the fact that it doesn't have wireless charging. So just plug it in, and literally 20 minutes you have 50% of charge, which should more or less last you for a whole day for a regular user. If you're not like an heavy gamer or something, that is more than enough for your day essentially. So, the next essentially is the screen, which I would say is probably the most fun part about the phone. So the OnePlus 7 Pro comes with a QHD 6.67 inch fluid AMOLED display. Now this display is really impressive. Like if I open this and I'm just scratching, let me just go open something and just scrolling through, it is extremely fluid and easy. Like you can literally just see the way it's fluid. Now this video has been recorded and been edited at 60 fps, so you wouldn't really still see how fluid this is, but this is extremely fluid, and this is probably the reason why most users or most people who've actually tried the OnePlus 7 Pro find it difficult to switch back to another phone. This display is immersive and it is extremely intriguing, which means once you start using it, it's like you can't go back. So the other part of this display that I really love is the 19.5:9 aspect ratio, which makes this phone feel small even though it's a big phone. You see the way it fits. I have large arms, by the way, or large palms, and this phone literally fills up my palm. But thanks to the aspect ratio to the eye, it actually feels like a very small phone, which I really like about the phone. The next part is you actually have 516 ppi on this. That's the pixel per inch, which essentially gives you a lot more detail into the phone thanks to the fact that it's QHD. And that is probably the biggest part of the OnePlus 7 Pro this year. Not to mention the HDR10 Plus, which comes into play when you're like watching stuff like Netflix or like apps that actually natively supports the HDR10 Plus. So that's really amazing and impressive about the OnePlus 7 Pro this year. Another part of the OnePlus 7 Pro that actually stands out for me personally is the storage. So you get the UFS 3.0 storage on this phone and comes coupled with a USB 3.1, which makes it extremely fast for data storage, data transfer, data movements. It's just extremely fast and fluid. Combining that with a Snapdragon 855 processor that comes with this phone, and you get that UFS 3.0 for most of the trims of the phone into 56 gigabytes. The very basic version comes in 128 gigabytes, but most people just go for it to 256 because it's a no-brainer. It's $30 difference, and you get it to 256 version. The almond color I have sadly only comes in 256, 8 gigabytes of RAM. There's the 12 gigabytes of RAM on the Nebula version and the 5G version, which I'll also talk about more later down the line. And the international version is dual SIM, while the local version is a single SIM. So the next part of this phone that actually really stands out to me, which is where I actually had to pull out the Nebula Blue again, because this is the T-Mobile version and this is the international version, is the connectivity, which I'll explain straight up. This international version comes with dual SIM. The T-Mobile version is a single SIM. Now, with the OnePlus 6 and previous editions, they supported basically all the bands in the world, but sadly, as they moved up from 60 trying to move into North America, and then the 7 and the 7 Pro finally, the phones don't support all the bands in the world, and they have specific bands. Now, both phones will work in almost every country, every locality you want to travel to in the world, but they would work better in certain zones. So both phones essentially support almost all the 2G and the 3G, at least the major 2G and 3G bands in the world, so you don't have a problem with that. But LTE is where it becomes more dicey. Now, both phones would work on almost all the major LTE bands in the world too. So you're basically in North America, which is where we are right now, or the United States, your T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint, and AT&T. Both phones will work pretty well on on all networks. However, the North American version, which is the T-Mobile version, has the band 46, 48, and 71. Now, the 71 is a 600 megahertz band of T-Mobile, which is the new LTE version they have, which is extremely fast and just supports better upload and download. For the band 46 and 48, that just also supports better upload and download, and you have that with, I think, Verizon and T-Mobile. I'll explain that further down the line. But the local version lacks band 40. Now, if you come from Nigeria, like I do, a couple of African countries, their LTEs are based around band 40, which means if you take the T-Mobile version and you travel to Africa, you might not get full LTE support when you're in Africa and China, basically, because they use band 40 for most of their major LTE connections, while the international version has all the major LTE bands all the way to band 40. It has the 46, but lacks 48 and 71. Okay, I think we have that covered there. So the next part of speed essentially is the upload and download speed. How fast do they upload and download? So in HSPA, which is your 3G, basically you get 42 megabits per second of upload and 5.76 megabits of download. While with the LTE version, which is the new Cat 5 system, basically you get 1200 megabits per second of upload and 150 megabits per second of download. Now that is even extremely faster when you move down into 5G, which is the next generation tech, which just got released officially this year, and a couple of phones already have their 5G models available. You have the Samsung S10 Plus available in 5G. You have the OnePlus 7 Pro too available in 5G, but only to Europe and specifically to the EE network. And the average price I think it's on the market for right now is actually about $900, but you have to buy it as a bundle package with the 5G. So that's just an estimate. Don't take me on that price. That's just quote unquote just an estimate I just dropped out there. So eventually when it comes to North America, we might be sitting around that price point, $100 or $200 above the current price for the regular LTE modem, which you have in this version right in front of me. Oh yeah, and earlier I said I was gonna mention the LTE versions or bands that are being used by each network in the United States, or basically the major four guys. So Verizon uses CDMA, and the LTE bands they work on is 2, 4, 5, and 13, which is also supported by the OnePlus 7 Pro. The T-Mobile runs on GSM and HSPA, which is the regular GSM connectivity, and they run on LTE bands 2, 4, 66, 12, and 71, which is supported by both phones, but 66 and 71 is available only on the T-Mobile version or the North American version of the OnePlus 7 Pro. So if you want to take advantage of the 66 and the 71, you definitely want to get the single SIM T-Mobile version of this phone. Okay. While for Sprint, they run on Trend 5 because it's also CDMA, but they do Trend 5, 26 and 41, which both phones definitely support. So AT&T does 2, 4, 5, 12, which both phones still support. So pretty much you can use either phone on all the networks in the United States and to get your full LTE coverage. Basically, as I mentioned earlier, anywhere in the world both phones would work, but just to maximize the networks, especially for T-Mobile, you would want to get the T-Mobile version, which you can either get in Nebula Blue right now or Mirror Gray. You can't get it in this color. Now, the big part almost everybody wants to know about on the phone, the camera. These phones carry one of the best camera sensors so far this year, and they upgraded, they are all new. They carry the Sony IMX586 48 megapixel primary focus sensor, and that is basically their major shooter or the primary shooter. So the center camera down here, you have the 48 megapixel camera. So you have your 8 megapixel telephoto camera, which is the aperture size 2.4, and that gives you 3x optical zoom and then up to 10x electronic zoom, so you can actually zoom in into an object up to 10 times but 3 times lossless thanks to optical zoom. And you have a 60 megapixel with aperture 2.2 wide angle camera. Now the wide angle is probably not the widest on any phone we've tried. I actually post pictures that I took on this phone. It is not as wide as you have on an example of the Samsung S10 Plus, but it does the job, and it's actually been getting better and better thanks to software updates, which one actually got released today that I'm actually shooting this video, so that's quite ironical, but the camera has actually even gotten better. So I'll actually take some newer pictures and upload them just right up here, which you can see now. These are the newer updated pictures I just took with the new updates installed on this phone today. The front camera is the pop-up camera, which is a 60 megapixel and has that motor that goes up and down. Now I actually really love the selfie on this phone. It is really clear, it's well detailed, and let's take a few shots of my boys down here. So this is the regular, and then the 3x zoom, and you can actually see the detail, and you actually shake this to try and see if you can actually capture some motion in that. And there we go with the 3x zoom. And then the next part of this phone I actually love is the fingerprint sensor, which I mentioned a little bit about earlier. The fingerprint sensor has a new algorithm that actually learns over time. So the more you use it, the better it gets. It actually starts to reread your finger each time you use it and learns your finger essentially. So at the end of 1, 2, 3 weeks of using this phone, the fingerprint becomes lossless. Literally unlocks your phone at a touch. So even if you have like a few shortcomings when you first start using it, like I currently have on this 7 Pro, also on the armor that I just registered, on this one it's just lossless. You just put your finger on it and it just goes, because it learns over time. And of course the big question almost everyone has, you've got this amazing screen that is juicing up and draining up all this battery. It's 90 Hz refresh rate, it's QHD. It's the first time OnePlus is ever going this way all out with a curved display, and it's just immersive. But what impacts does it have on the battery life? And I would say I'm actually really disappointed in the battery life of the OnePlus 7 Pro, because on my 60 I actually get 2 days of use from a single charge. However, I can't last more than literally a whole day on the OnePlus 7 Pro. It barely just gets me through the day. At the end of the day, I get about 15 to 17% charge on it, which technically is still okay. The phone is not dead, but it just barely gets me through the day. It's not as impressive as you would have expected with a bump in the battery size. And I believe the same effect is quite seen on the 7, although I haven't had my hands on that to actually test it out. Now, as a gamer, another part of this phone I really do like, where I just installed my Power Rangers on this one, is gaming. And on the 7 Pro, they have what we call the Fanatic mode now, which basically optimizes your CPU, your RAM. It shuts up the second similar to the dual SIM version, which I have definitely on this Almond. It enhances the processor, enhances the network, so you just get the best gaming experience you can, and it blocks off all notifications. So if you switch on the Fanatic mode, you don't have any notifications coming in. Pretty much you're just gaming on your phone. And if you have a call that comes in, you can just go into loudspeaker. While if you're on the non-Fanatic mode, you can still use your regular gaming mode and tweak that the way you like. You still have some notifications coming like a bar. You could have all those tweaks precisely the way you want it. And the last but not the least part of this phone, which I think I actually do like, is the Zen Mode. So basically OnePlus introduced this year to be on the side of digital well-being. I, for one, I'm always engaged in my phone. If I go out with my friends to, let's say, the club, to dinner, just hanging out, I'm always usually on my phone. So this gets me eventually away from the phone, because this phone can actually be really immersive. And I forgot to mention, it actually has a dual speaker now, which is part of the things that makes it really immersive for me, because I really love my sound. Sound is one of the biggest parts for me as a person. So having a dual speaker on this one, and it actually sounds really good. Actually, let me play something. Let's just play something at random. Let's listen to how it sounds. So basically, you could actually listen to this and feel the depth in it. Let me put this closer to my mic. So it's louder, it's got that depth, it's better. At least for OnePlus, this is a big and huge upgrade. You can feel the mids, and when you're gaming especially, actually goes even way louder and way deeper with music, so with gaming. So I really love that. And then finally, let's finish up with the Zen Mode, which I was explaining earlier on. So basically, you just swipe down, you click the Zen Mode, and let's go. So once it starts, you can't cancel it. If you start Zen Mode, it takes 20 minutes time off from your phone. The only things you can do is you can receive calls, you can make emergency calls, and you can take pictures. Anything outside that, the phone is completely useless. If you switch it off, restart the phone, you still can't get out of Zen Mode. And it gives you basically all these instructions. It reads it out to you, and you click yes. 3, 2, 1, and I'm in Zen Mode. And with that, I come essentially to the end of my review, as my Zen Mode keeps counting down and I can't use this one anymore. Gladly, this is still my main driver, so I still have the Nebula Blue right in front of me. Okay, so is the OnePlus 7 Pro worth buying for $700? And I would say H to the yes. For $700, you're getting a triple camera system, 40 megapixel camera, which I also didn't mention initially. The 40 megapixel camera actually only shoots 48 megapixel in Pro mode. So you get 12 megapixel when you shoot a regular image, but when you go into the Pro mode, you can shoot with the full 48 megapixel. And the reason it does that is basically to just improve quality technically and save space. If you have any questions, comments, inquiries, whatever, just slide down and drop it in the comment section. I'm always there to always respond and reply to you guys. And if you love this and you want to see more from this channel, Sage Reviews, please hit the like button and subscribe and turn on that bell notification right there to see more. Thank you.